Buenos días, principiantes. 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 Who are they? Principiantes are beginners. So that's what you are. And this is what we are doing today. Lección uno. We have done Lección preliminar, the preliminary lesson. And now we've advanced to lesson one. How's that for progress? One thing I wanted to just talk about yesterday was May 5th. In English, May 5th, we say, or 5th of May. In Spanish, they use the cardinal number, not the ordinal number, for a date. The cardinal is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The ordinal is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so forth. So they always use, almost always, the cardinal number, except for the first of the month. Then they say primero. So the first would be primero. Forgot a letter. Primero. And after that, it's dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, etc., etc. When you use a date in Spanish. We're on lesson one, and I believe that you have received copies by email. And if you do not, please ask for it afterwards, and they'll get it to you. So the first part of this lesson is expresiones corrientes. Now, literally, this is lowercase. They only capitalize the first letter. Expresiones corrientes, current expressions. Corrientes means not only current, but everyday, ordinary, that kind of thing. So the dialogue that they give here, saludos. Our English cognate is salute, but it means greetings. So saludos are not formal salutes, they're informal salutes, greetings. So here's a conversation here. Francisco and Jose. Now Francisco says to Jose, "Hola Pepe." What's going on? Well, Pepe is a nickname for Jose. Jose replies to Francisco, "Hola Paco." So Paco is a nickname for Francisco. So we need to know all these things. And so Francisco says, "¿Cómo estás?" ¿Cómo estás? Estar is an infinitive, meaning to be, only in the sense of condition or location. The other way is to be something, to be like something, or to be professionally something, then that verb is ser. So you can be piloto, capitán, etc. So, when Francisco says, ¿Cómo estás?" he's using this verb. Inverted question marks always begin a question. That way, when you start it, reading it, you know it's a question. You don't have to wait till the end the way we do in English. That's an advantage. So, he says, ¿Cómo estás? What are these accent marks? What's their significance? Well, in this case, two different things. In this one, como means like or as, or how. When it means how, it's usually a question or an exclamation like, how difficult this is, right? It gets an accent mark when it's written. Estás is the form of this verb estar when the subject is tú. But you don't have to say tú because this S right here tells you that it's tú. We'll get into this a lot later with all the verbs, but just a preview. So, Francisco says, ¿Cómo estás? And Jose, or Pepe, says, ¿Y tú? ¿Qué tal? E is the word and in English. So because it began this utterance, it begins with a capital letter. ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué is a question word. When it's used as a question, it gets an accent mark. The upside down question mark, we'll call it inverted. Anyway, that's your signal that that's a question. ¿Qué tal is very colloquial. It doesn't have a translation. It just means, how's it going? What's up? How are you doing? Any of those things. So, Paco, or Francisco, replies, así, así. Pues, he says. Así, así. Pues is like a hesitation word. It means, well, así means so. Así, así means so. Pretty quick, pretty easy, right? Questions. There's a little bit of a delay, so if you have a question, don't worry about that. There's a little bit of delay in the transition. So when he asked, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? He's asking for the condition. If you wanted to say, where are you? Which would also be estar, say, ¿Dónde estás? Where are you? Again, a question word gets an accent mark in a question when it's written. We don't know where he is. It just seems as though they meet up with each other and they start their little conversation. Now, we have Carmen and Concepcion. These are women's names. So we know that Paco is a nickname for Francisco. Pepe is a nickname for Jose. Same thing with women's names. So Carmen says, Hola Concha. Concepcion answers, Hola Carmencita. So we can infer that Concha is a nickname for Concepcion, and Carmencita is a form of Carmen that suffix with ita in this case is a diminutive. In other words, it's like adding a y, like Tom and Tommy, or Joe and Joey. Okay, and ¿cómo estás? Same question as above. Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? Again, ¿y tú? And you? Muy bien. Muy bien. Muy is very. Bien is well. Very well. Spanish-speaking people do not confuse good and well. Okay? They always use well properly, and they use good properly. Good is bueno, or buena, but that's not appropriate in this case. So, muy bien is very well. Page 21. Two more conversations. Now you noticed, I hope, that okay, now we're going to find another word for you. And we'll just try to figure out, well, why is it different in this next case? Carlos, buenos días, señorita. Señorita is Miss. La profesora Sánchez says, buenos días, Carlos. Carlos says, ¿cómo está usted? ¿Cómo está usted? See what they wrote here. Again, in the question word, got the accent. Está has an accent on that syllable. Otherwise, it's pronounced esta, and it means this in the feminine singular. And usted is you. Different from tú. What is the difference? Well, here, Carlos is speaking socially up to la profesora. So it's a polite use of you. Tú is a familiar use of you. Think of it as first name versus last name differences. So, Profesora Sanchez says, buenos días, Carlos. Carlos. You probably know that the O or OS signifies a masculine gender, and that the A is typically a feminine gender. Now, these are not male and female. Every noun in Spanish has a gender. It's either male or female. A few neuters, but they're rare. So, what happens because dia looks at first glance like a feminine word, but it's not? Why? Well, probably because it inherited its gender from Latin. The word in Latin was dies, and it was masculine. So it became dia in the gradual process of language transformation. So it kept its gender. And Latin often got its gender from words from the Greek. So there's a lot of history behind these words. So then we have, ¿cómo está usted? Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y usted? And you? Muy bien, gracias. So each of these is calling the other usted. So it's a formal relationship, a Mr., Miss kind of thing.
Tom, if you were talking to a friend, would you say ¿Cómo estás tú?
¿Cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás tú?
The tú. Tú. Now, how do you know? You know that tú goes with the S ending on the verb. We'll get into more complicated conjugations. Conjugation is a way to take a verb and lay it out in a systematic way to show its different forms. Verbs in Spanish are the most important key. They tell you person and number, and that means you know who the subject is. Generally, sometimes it's a little vague, but and you know how many it is. So let's take that verb estar. That's the infinitive. And let's conjugate it. Now, conjugation, what's that mean? Con means with, and jugar in Spanish means to play. So we're going to play with verbs. You might not think of it as play. You might think of it as more grinding work. But anyway, here's the fun part. Here's the subject, yo. Yo means I. Now, we don't have to use it because estoy is the ending that tells us that yo is the subject. Tú estás. Now, this accent mark tells us that's where the stress is. There are other ways to know where the stress is based on a regular situation. But when you see an accent mark, you know that's where the stress syllable is. And then I, you, third person. Okay, this is first person, primero, segundo, and tercero. First, second, and third persons. What's that mean? First person is person speaking. Second person is the person spoken to, and the third person is the person spoken about. So, está would be the third person singular. So this first column is the singular, and we'll do the plural in the second column. This is a typical array when you display a conjugation. I forgot to tell you that conjugation, no, I told you, is what this array is. Tells you the person and the number. Okay, person is first, second, third, number is singular or plural. So estamos means we are. Estáis means you plural are. Están means they are, or you in the plural formal. Now, what is this formal versus familiar? This is the familiar. So this can mean he, she, or it. So él is he. Ella is she. And there's a neuter when you don't know, it's not a reference to something specific, it's actually a neuter, ello. So it, which is a masculine thing, or he, she, or a feminine thing, and ello if it's just some sort of a cluster of idea that doesn't have a specific gender you can assign to it. So this is rarer. So he is, él está. She is, ella está. Estar is telling us condition or location. So when you ask someone how they are, you say, ¿Cómo está usted? Or ¿Cómo estás tú? If you want to ask them where they are, you use the word ¿dónde? ¿Dónde in a question gets an accent mark, just like the como did. So, if we wanted to say, okay, the subjects here, if we use them, the subject is nosotros. I'm going to write it in here. I'm going to try to crown it in nosotros. Or it could be nosotras if all of the people referring to themselves are female. That's feminine ending. If it's mixed or masculine, it's nosotros. Now, the plural of tú is vosotros. Or vosotras if all female. That means, in my native language, y'all. It's a plural. So, if they're all female, it'd be vosotras. If it's mixed or all male, it's vosotros. Él, ella, and occasionally ello. He or she or it. Está. Ellos is the plural, or ellas, if all female. Or feminine things. Están. So that's a conjugation. So we've played with this verb. You might consider it more like work, but nonetheless, there's a fine line between the two. It's like in real life. If you know the game, you can play it successfully. Okay? Politics, personal relations, all that stuff. So think of it that way. It's a game, but it's a serious game, and you need to know how to play it. So let's go back to page 21. And we have a second dialogue here. El Profesor Pérez. Now, if they call it Professor Pérez, he's going to be like probably the teacher, and Anita, the first name, is going to be the student. Buenas tardes, señorita Machado, says Professor. Anita, who is the señorita, first name, muy buenas tardes. Very good afternoon. Now, why is it plural? Why not muy buena tarde? Well, you just have to accept things in language. They give it to us. We repeat it, and that's the way it is. It doesn't mean good afternoons. It means good afternoon. ¿Cómo está usted, señorita? Now, here's the professor addressing the student with usted. He's not using the familiar because he's showing respect. He's showing a professional respect here. Muy bien, gracias. Very well, thank you. Y usted and you? Muy bien. Bien, gracias. Not muy bien, just bien. He's not very well, he's well. Questions? Could you conduct a conversation like this with someone very quickly? You should be able to. Unless you ask questions, we will assume that you do know. Page 22, we have two more dialogues. La señora Lopez and el doctor Gil. So we have Ms. Lopez saying good evening or good night to this doctor. Buenas noches, muy buenas noches. What do we know from seeing this? What about the word noche? Remember I said to you that dia is a masculine word, but even though it ends in an A, which is typically a feminine ending, but here we have an E. It's neither O nor A. How do we know what gender noche is from this conversation? What vowel is missing? Look at your text. Buenas noches. An A. That's typically the feminine ending, right? Whereas with dias, we might have assumed it would be buenos dias, but it's buenos dias. That tells us this word is a masculine word despite the fact that it ends in an A. So it's the noun controlling the gender of the adjective. The final conversation between Roberto y Carmela. Now this double L is pronounced in classical Spanish like an ly, or the L's in million. Y. Llamar, llamar. Now it often just comes out as like a Y sound, llamar, depending on the dialect. So Roberto says, ¿Cómo te llamas? Now, we know that this tells us that the subject is tú. Okay? So we could just put out here in the brackets, tú. ¿Cómo te llamas tú? How do you call yourself? How do you call yourself? Kind of a different way of saying my name is. You could say my name is in Spanish. Mi nombre es. But they don't do it. They say, I call myself, or how do you call yourself? Okay, so that's the equivalent of what's your name. And so Carmela says to Roberto, me llamo Carmela. I call myself Carmela. The subject of this, the pronoun subject, is yo. So she could have said, yo me llamo Carmela. But she doesn't need to, because this tells us that that is the subject. Now, don't get in a rut here thinking that O's mean yo and A's A's mean AS means something else. In verbs it does, but you've got to be careful because on nouns and adjectives the O's are the masculine and the A's are the feminine. But this is a verb and that's a name. So So we have those two conversations. Well, okay, me llamo, I call myself, or my name is. Me llamo, ¿cómo te llamas? Roberto says to Carmela. Me llamo Carmela. ¿Y tú? Me llamo Roberto. Okay, so they've introduced themselves to each other. Then we have the professor and the North American student. El estudiante norteamericano. ¿Cómo se llama usted? Says el profesor, and el estudiante norteamericano. Me llamo Jack Smith. ¿Cómo se llama usted, señor? Me llamo Wilson. Okay, ¿cómo se llama usted? Usted. Again, the question word, like who, what, where, why, how, gets an accent mark in the question itself. Now, usted, this is the way you spell it out, but it's almost always abbreviated with a capital D and a period. Now, if we wanted to say, address more than one person, ¿cómo se llaman? Now, this tells us that the subject is a plural, ustedes. And that would be abbreviated UDS, period. ¿Cómo se llaman ustedes? What's y'all's names? So to finish that second conversation, el estudiante norteamericano me llamo Jack Smith. Okay, what's going on here? Me llamo Jack Smith. I call myself Jack Smith. My name is Jack Smith. That's a good translation. So then he says, ¿Cómo se llama usted, señor? What is your name, sir? Me llamo Wilson. 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 Vowels are very clear in Spanish. A, E, I, O, U. Okay? A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. Now, Wilson, sometimes Spanish have a lot of trouble pronouncing our W. So they might pronounce it as a B. Me llamo Wilson. Wilson.
B or V?
Like a B. But if it's his own name, he probably learned how to say W's. Okay. Page 23. Now, this little section is entitled The Accent. I like to distinguish between stress and accent. Okay? Accent, to me, is an accent mark. It's part of the punctuation. Stress is the spoken stress on a given syllable. If you see an accent mark on a word, you know that's where the stress is. Simple as that. If you don't see an accent on a word, then you need to apply the rule. ending in a vowel, an N, or an S. Stress is on the next to last syllable. Next to last. If it ends in any other consonant, it's on the last syllable. That's the rule. Rules are meant to be broken, right? How do we know we've broken a rule? We will see a written accent. If you see a written accent, that's where you stress it, regardless of these endings, okay? So, let's look at page 23 and figure out, based on the boldface, which they have put on the stressed syllable, the spoken stress, but some of these words then have accent marks on them. So let's look at them and figure out why is Conchita stressed on the chi. It ends in a vowel. That's the next to the last syllable. We don't see an accent mark to tell us otherwise, so it's Conchita, the next to the last syllable. Carmen, 2 syllables. There's only one choice. The first syllable is the next to the last. Tardes, same way. Estudiante, 3 syllables. The next to the last is the second syllable. Estudiantes. Loren, 2 syllables. Next to the last is the first syllable. Gracias, same thing. Profesora, 3 syllables. The second one is the stressed one. Entran, 2 syllables. The first is the next to the last syllable. Hoteles, next to last. Carmela, next to last. Forman, next to last. Happens to be the first. Libros, again. Roberto. Meeting. Señoritas. Now, what do all these words mean? Well, we know Conchita and Carmen are female names. Tardes are afternoons. Or as an adjective, it means late, but in the plural. Estudiante, you can guess that means student. Loren is another name. Gracias, I hope you know that one. Profesora, next to last. Entran, 2 syllables, next to last. Hoteles, next to last. Carmela, next to last. Forman, next to last. Libros. Roberto. Meeting. Señoritas. Now, some of these words you know already, or you can guess. Hoteles means hotels, and Carmela is a name, as is Roberto. Señoritas is the plural of señorita. What is meeting? Meeting. What does it sound like in English? Meeting. They borrowed a word and spelled it their own way. It happens, okay? Meeting. Meeting also is reunión. Meeting. Reunión, or reunion, that's what a meeting is. It's reuniting people. This is the real word. This is a kind of a, I don't know what to call it. Okay, so then these are all stressed on the next to the last syllable. The end in N or an S or a vowel. The next group all end in a consonant. So that means the stress is going to be on the last syllable. So we have, I'm going to read across. Inicial, which you might guess means initial. Madrid, the capital of Spain. Feroz. Feroz means ferocious. Residencial. Residencial. Usted. Atroz. If feroz means ferocious, what does atroz mean? Atrocious. Cañaveral. Okay. Cañaveral. Cañaveral. Caña is a cane that grows in the. So cañaveral is a field of cane field. Libertad, the AD ending, TAD and DAD are like our ITY. So libertad is liberty. Badajoz, Badajoz. Badajoz, or in the Castilian Spanish, Badajoz, pronounced with the Z as a TH in thin, but elsewhere it's pronounced as an S. Badajoz is a city in Spain. Coral, you can guess that one. Fraternidad, you can guess that one. Capaz. Capaz isn't as easy to guess, but it means capable, able. So we have some more words here. These ending in something other than an N or an S. Well, the second group was the same way. So the stress will be on the final syllable. Motor, motor. Going down the column, locutor. Locutor is a speaker. From locution, which means spoken word. Profesor, that's what I pretend to be. Distribuidor, distributor. Countries, Paraguay, Paraguay, Uruguay, Uruguay. Godoy, Godoy is like a famous surname in Spanish. And estoy, we saw that earlier, right? Estoy bien, gracias. I'm fine. Then we have words that have to have an accent to show where the stress is. Teléfono, cómico, simpático, lógico, televisión, civilización, sultán, Corán, Gómez, Sánchez, Vázquez, Pérez. All of these words have accent marks because they don't follow that N, S, or vowel rule, where the next to the last syllable is typically stressed. So we always show an accent when it doesn't follow that pattern. So, I think you can guess what teléfono means, cómico. How about simpático? Any idea what simpatico means? It does not mean sympathetic. It has a kind of a loose relationship. It means friendly or nice. Someone who's simpatico or simpatica is a nice person, pleasant person. Lógico, logical. Televisión, I'll let you guess that. Civilización, you can guess that. Sultán, you can guess that. Corán, spell it with a K. The Quran. Gómez, Sánchez, Vázquez, and Pérez are all surnames in Spanish. Typically in Spanish, they use double surnames. The first surname a person uses is the father's surname, and the second, if they use the second, is the mother's surname, the mother's first surname. because the patrilineal line is the first surname, and the matrilineal is the secondary. Okay, the ones that need accents go to café, papa, sofá, rubí, francés, inglés, aragonés, interés. Aragonés refers to the region in Spain of Aragon. So someone who is from Aragon is an Aragonés or an Aragonesa if it's a woman. The rest of these you can guess. Then we have these other first names here. Raúl, Continua, Maria, and Sofia. You have to look carefully to see that the I's in Maria and Sofia have accents on them and not just dots. My photocopy here, it isn't real clear, but those are accent marks. And the reason you know that is because if you hear Sofia, what you've done is you've taken this, which would be what we call a diphthong, a blend of vowels, and you've split it to make it two syllables. Ia. This is ya. This is ia. In the right-hand column, on page 23, the last item, a syllable containing a stressed I or U must mark it with a written accent if it stands next to an A or an E or an O. So let me just talk for a second about weak vowels and strong vowels. Those are strong vowels. Those are weak vowels. Now, how do you remember that? You just say, you and I are weak and everybody else is strong. Okay? Simple formula. Real simple. Simple for people like me.
Do they ever use the Y as a vowel in Spanish?
The Y can be used as a vowel, but it's like English, it's a semi-vowel. So it functions as a consonant sometimes and a vowel other times. Let's take a famous name. Godoy. There it's functioning as a vowel. It's as though it were an I. This word, yema, is functioning as a consonant. Yema. Yema is an egg yolk. So if that's the way you like your eggs, you know how to say it. Solamente yemas, only the yolks. Okay, so we have Raúl, we know U is stressed. Maria, we know Ia is stressed. Continua, we know that Ua is the stress. Sofia, again. Now, here comes the difference between monosyllables, single syllable words. Some have accents and some don't, and they change the actual meaning. This means if, this means yes, or indeed. Más and más. This means more, and this means but. It's equivalent to the word pero, almost, which means but. That squiggle was intended to be an almost equal sign. So, de is a preposition meaning from or of, and de is the command form of the verb dar, which means to give. So, deme un lápiz, por favor. Give me a pencil, please. Por favor is please, as a favor, literally. Lápiz has an accent here. Questions? Me and me. Give me my pencil, please. My pencil. Give me. This is like an object of a verb. This is a possessive adjective, and like my. I give you your pencil. You give me my pencil. This is an object of the verb. It's an indirect object in this case because lápiz is the direct object. And this is an object of the verb. I give your pencil to you. We say, I give you your pencil. You give me my pencil. So these are adjectives. These are pronouns. Now, what's the subject of this verb? Subject of this verb is to, with an accent. So we know that is a pronoun, that is an adjective. You just put this at the beginning of the sentence. Tú me das mi lápiz. Now what's the subject of this verb? It's yo. Yo te doy tu lápiz. Yo, I, tú, you as a subject. Te is you as an object. And tú here is a possessive adjective. Me is a possessive adjective. It modifies the pencil. Are you confused yet? I hope you've got some little questions in your mind. You just have to learn this stuff. And the only thing I can say is pay close attention. And in many cases, memorize. Got this all? I'm ready to erase. So let's do some pronunciation. Ejercicio, middle of page 24. Pronunciation rules. The ending of a word is N or S or a vowel. The next to the last syllable is what gets the stress. What's stress again? It's the spoken emphasis on the syllable. If you see an accent mark, all bets are off. You know that's where the stress is. Now sometimes there's not a difference because, for example, me and me are pronounced the same way. Tu, we learned, is the subject, and tu, we learned, is the possessive adjective, your. This is my, this is me. So let's go to this middle of page 24 and read down the column. Ejercicio. Ejercicio. This letter is always pronounced. Take an H, put it in the back of your throat, and start it there. If you see this combination or this combination, it's pronounced the same way. Otherwise, the G is the hard G, like ga, go, and gu. But this is he and he. The J is always pronounced like that. So we have, for example, the word jabali. Now we know the stress is on that last syllable because that's where the accent mark is. It doesn't follow the rule, so it shows an accent mark. That tells us the stress is there. So jabali is a great word. It's a word for wild boar. So let's go down and the column here, literatura. Literatura, literatura. How many syllables is that? 5. Which one is stressed? The next to the last, right? Literatura, the 4th one. Variada, variada. 3 syllables. Not variada, because the I and the A form a diphthong, okay? What's a diphthong? I'm going to write up here, normal stress, okay, is on the next to the last syllable if the word ends in these. Diphthongs. This tells you, for example, in the word diametrically opposed or division, it's 2, okay? A diphthong is a blend of two vowels. A blend of two vowels must have at least one weak vowel. Okay? So, you and I are weak, everybody else is strong. So, if we have this combination, we have I and E, they blend together, I. That's also pronounced the same way. That is I. The Y here functions as a vowel. A-U, A-U, ow, ow. A, A, A. E, yeah, yeah. We'll get to these diphthongs in a more complete form later. I have a handout for them, and I don't have that with me today, but we'll get it to you. So, variada is an example of a diphthong. Broken into syllables. Variada. That is like ya. Variada, variada. Famoso, famoso. Narración. You see the accent mark, so you know that's where the stress is. Narración. Same way with última, última. Okay, now we got legendario, legendario, legendario. 4 syllables. It ends in a vowel, so the stress is going to be on the next to the last syllable, which is dario, legendario, because yo forms a single vowel syllable, like it's a diphthong, yo. Legendario. We have an accent mark on the I with título, título. Árabe, árabe, which means Arabic or Arab. Literario, literario. Again, this is the ending syllable. It's a diphthong. Legendario or literario. Linguístico. Here we go. Here's something new. Those 2 dots tell you pronounced. Linguístico. We'll get back to this next time. Read the right-hand column so you can understand how to pronounce these things, and we'll go over them next class. Any further question? Okay.